Hi, welcome to this week's Vercel community livestream. I'm Amy Egan. I'm on the community team here at Vercel. A reminder, this is streaming to X and YouTube, but if you want to join the chat, please sign into the community and click going on the event. You'll see the chat pop up on the side. That'll make sure that we catch your comments if you have any questions. Feel free to ask questions throughout the session, and we'll just ask those all at the end. And a reminder, if you are hanging out in the chat, please remember to be respectful and follow our code of conduct. And with that out of the way, I would like to welcome our guest to the stage. Last month, my teammate Jacob joined the HubSpot team to talk about bringing your own backend to the HubSpot developer program. And this month, we are being joined by the HubSpot team to talk about how they use Vercel. So welcome, Brooke.
Thank you so much, Amy. Hi, everybody. My name is Brooke Bond, and I am excited to be here on the Vercel community. So I have just a couple of questions that you can answer ahead in the chat, but we would love to know, have you ever used HubSpot before? Do you know who we are? Have you built with us? And if you have, what have you built? I would love to know all of those comments in the chat. That would be so lovely. But we only have 30 minutes, so I want to make sure we get to all of our great content. So today we're going to just quickly go over what is HubSpot, who are we as the HubSpot DevRel team, how can we use HubSpot and Vercel together, and then we have a couple of examples of how our HubSpot DevRel team has been using Vercel in our different projects that we do at HubSpot. And finally, we'll leave a little bit of time for Q&A. So like Amy said, if you have any questions at all, please put them in the chat and we'll be happy to answer them at the end. So today I'm going to be joined by two of my colleagues, Dennis Edson and Chris Riley, and we are so excited to be here. So first, let's set the ground rules, not the ground rules. Let's set up what is HubSpot. So HubSpot is a smart CRM for businesses. We have a suite of marketing, sales, and service softwares, and we have a unified developer platform for building the integrations. And that's what the DevRel team focuses our efforts on, is helping our developers understand how to use the developer platform. And the picture up here on the screen that you see is a CRM contact record page. So with the HubSpot developer platform, all of the work that you create is housed within a HubSpot project. And on the HubSpot developer platform, you can build both internal static applications or external OAuth applications. And if you build an external application, you can actually put that on our HubSpot marketplace. And then any person with a HubSpot account can go to the marketplace and download your app. So say you're Vercel and you want to build an integration where people can see their Vercel metrics inside of their HubSpot account, you could go ahead and build that, create the OAuth flow, have people download that into their account, and then they would be able to see their Vercel stuff right inside of HubSpot and vice versa. So over the screenshot I have here right now is the development overview page. So we have a dedicated development overview page for the developers when they're in their account so that they can see all of the projects that they're doing. We also have monitoring tools so people can see what the API usage is and all that good stuff. So all of your stuff in one place, very easy for you to just go in. You don't have to worry about the noise of all of that other stuff that is not a part of your HubSpot projects. So now I just want to quickly introduce us as a team. So we are an interdisciplinary group of developers and managers who help our developers thrive in the HubSpot ecosystem. And we help the developer community by building solutions, helping them learn best practices, and creating integrations that they can use. We host live events like this one and on our own channels, attend and speak at conferences. And we also ensure that external developer feedback is taken into account when building and launching new features. So we are very close to our developer engineering counterparts, and we give them the feedback from our community to help us make our product better. So this is just a little graph that I created to show you a little bit more. So we have our learning and resources that includes our developer documentation, our blog, our YouTube, and different tutorials that we have both on YouTube, GitHub, different places. our community and connection, we have a developer Slack that anybody can sign up for. We also have a forum so people can go and ask questions in the community forums. And we do in-person events throughout the year. We also have some building and development tools. So we have our app quality assessment. That's our ecosystem quality team. They look at all of the applications that go onto our marketplace and ensure that they are up to our standard. And then we also have sample apps. And finally, this is new, but we have our Dev MCP, and we worked very closely with the engineers who built that so that they could understand how we could make a really great MCP product for our developers. And finally, showcasing and growth. We have a case study section where we take great developer programs and we highlight them, how they're using HubSpot. We also have marketplace certifications. So when you publish your app on our marketplace, you can become marketplace certified, which means that you'll get a little blue check or just a symbol to let people know that you are quality assured. And finally, we help with GTM coordination. So when we have big launches throughout the year, we help with the marketing materials for that, making sure that we speak to our developer audience in the way that is going to be best for them. So now that we've talked about who we are and what we do, let's talk about how we use HubSpot and Vercel together. So like Amy said, last month, we held a webinar all about bringing your own backend. So this is one of the main use cases that I'm going to be talking about here, which is using Vercel as that backend service. So in this case, you have your HubSpot app, which is our front end, and that has UI components that are built with React that you put onto your page so that you can render that for the front end inside of a HubSpot account. And then you have your Vercel backend, which will hold your code. And so what you will do is inside of your code, you're going to use HubSpot.fetch to call your backend via the API that you create. And then that is going to return and manipulate the data and then render a response to the front end. So to showcase what that looks like, I'm going to quickly go over an example that I built. And this is an LLMS.txt file generator. Try and say that 3 times fast. So what this does is the LLMS.txt file generator is a HubSpot app that takes a web page or a sitemap URL, parses through that data on the page to create that file. And an LLMS.txt file is a file for AI search crawlers so that they don't have all of that extra HTML. It renders your information in a markdown file format so that they can read it very quickly. And this uses HubSpot Fetch to call the Vercel API endpoint and the HubSpot Files API to upload that file to your HubSpot account. So the screenshot that I'm showing here is my code, and this is where I'm actually calling the Vercel API. And here I just wrap that into a try catch, and then I sent along the endpoint. So now that I've talked about that, let's see how it works. So I'm going to go into the front end so that you can see. So this is inside of our HubSpot account. And here we have the DevRel Labs generator. This is what is known as an app settings page. And the reason specifically why I chose to have this rendered on an app settings page is because, this is a very admin-y type of work that people would do for their website. So I didn't want to make it accessible to any person within your HubSpot account. I wanted to make sure that only the right people had access to this so that people weren't generating these and causing issues with the AI search crawlers. So here you get to choose your type. You can put in a whole sitemap, or you can put in a single URL. Obviously, a sitemap, if your website is very large, will take it a while. So the single URL will be a lot faster. So then you can just put in your URL. So I'm just going to do our developers.hubspot.com, and then it will generate. Oh, I got an error. Okay, well, that's fun. This is live. So let's see. Let's go into my Vercel settings and see if we get an error message in, well, not the build logs. So here in my backend, we can see the stuff. So let's see the runtime logs and see if we can find the error. Well, things are not working, but if it was in a perfect situation, what would happen is that LLMS.txt file would be generated and it would be uploaded to your HubSpot account using that Vercel serverless function that I created. So Now I'm going to pass it on to the rest of my teammates to talk about how we also use HubSpot in other ways, not just bringing Vercel as a backend to HubSpot, but also to different things that we're doing. So I'm going to hand it off to Chris.
Thank you. One thing I love about demos that don't end up working 100% perfectly correct is that it certainly allows us to have empathy for all the developers that are watching and our community and so forth. If we could go back to the slides quickly on Brooke's machine. Perfect. Thank you. So, of course, we would love all of you to take your creativity and ideas and bring them to HubSpot customers via an integration using our APIs. But how do we also use Vercel inside of DevRel to experiment and run really quick tests and build really quick prototypes so we can test out ideas that we have as a team and bring it to the rest of the organization? So we have something called DevRel Labs. And DevRel Labs is a set of rules, is a set of process that spreads all across developer relations. And it gives us an opportunity to have a standard way to experiment, take those experiments, validate them or invalidate them, as happens sometimes, and then graduate those, maybe it's into product or into a more polished solution after the fact. And so what we're going to talk about now are two experiments that I have been leading, and then we'll move to Dennis to talk about the one that he's been working on. But all of these experiments, they have a clear process and a clear goal around them. And one of those is we, like many organizations, have a Slack community for external developers. This is a place for folks who are building solutions on top of HubSpot can come, they can engage and learn and help each other, because really the best community is a community that has peer-to-peer engagement. And so we thought, what can we do to bring solutions and resources more quickly to these community members? And one of the obvious solutions, I'm sure you've interacted with several Slack bots out there, was to build a Slack bot. But when we thought about a Slack bot, it's not something that we wanted to just kind of dominate the conversation. We wanted to have it there for engagement. So it should be not too intrusive. And we wanted to have it there to get the quick resources in real time to our external community. And so we built that on Vercel, because that allows us to very quickly create a prototype and then evaluate the quality of it, and then take it from there to say, what are we going to do next with this? And right now we're in the experimentation and validation stage. So working in conjunction with the rest of our community team in DevRel, we'll decide where it goes next. So I wanted to quickly show on my screen the bot, and what you see here, that we have. I actually really like this home screen because it's fun. Any graphs and charts and numbers are always really fun. But we have a simple screen that gives us some data on the adoption of the bot. But there's two ways to interact with the bot. I can do it via direct message, or we have some channels where the bot will automatically respond to support-related questions. So I'm going to go ahead and submit a question, just very simply, how do I get started with the HubSpot Dev MCP? And what I wanted to show, because I'm a little bit limited in what I can actually show from our backend, is the real-time logging that we get from this in Vercel. So this allows me to, I'm going to say that this one right here is probably the real-time chat that I just submitted. And it happened quickly, which is good news. It quickly changes to a thinking message. It goes to OpenAI to get a response. It comes back via a tool to see, are there additional resources curated by the DevRel team, which I might give to this user that might help them move further on. That could be YouTube, it could be documentation, it could be all sorts of resources. And then it will give a response. And so I'm guessing this is the response. It is. So now if I go back into this, and we see everything's 200. So that's best case scenario, right? And it did. So not only did it give me a response, it gave me articles to look at. It told me to join the dev Slack. I'm already here. But it also gave me tutorials and other information that recommends that would be related to the question that I was presenting here. And it gave me the right response, which is get your dev environment set up, install the CLI, install the MCP server, and you're good to go. And it even gave some ideas on how to get started. And so as you can see, that was a very simple way for us to build, test, and the logs are so important here, test a solution using a custom-built Slack bot, where we in DevRel, our primary responsibility is not to build solutions. Like, we're all developers, but we're not day-to-day building. So whatever we build on needs to get out of our way and be very seamless. Now, this set us up for something that I was kind of surprised by. So if we go back to the slides, I'll talk to how this led to yet another experiment. Sorry, before that, if you can go back, Brooke, to the slide with the... So first I wanted to say, what are the things in Vercel that got me really excited? One, easy to read logs, like I showed, and I had it set to live. So you saw the log streaming in real time. The starts, we're dealing with a serverless environment. The starts have been surprisingly fast. That's important for Slack. If you've ever built a Slack integration or any other third-party tool you're integrating with, which is also serverless, you want quick starts. And on every tier inside of Vercel, there's quick starts. I love the CLI for being able to deploy before I commit or do a pull request to make sure that if I put any sort of janky code in there, I can catch issues faster before I deploy. And of course, deploying to various environments. And then also, kind of like we have a marketplace, they have connections into services like Neon and Upstash for Redis and Postgres, which make it very, very quick to get a backend database up and running. And that was important. Speaking of backend database, that's what led to what was coming next. So we have all of these interactions now in our dev Slack. And it turns out to be a really rich source of information. Obviously, we could intuit this, but one of the things that I was surprised by is realizing I could probably create another front-end interface into this data such that we could use it to go back to what Brooke said before, to educate and inform our feedback process, how we receive information, how we take that information back into product to improve the developer experience. And so we went from building a Slack bot to now suddenly switching over to V0 in a new project, taking that data, creating a very simple password protected front end to expose what are the things that people are asking questions about? What are the types of resources that we surface? So we get a lot of conversations about webhooks. We get a lot of conversations about authentication. It allowed us to show the impact of the experiments we were doing, which is really, really cool because we do have to take this Slack bot somewhere. We didn't want to just build it and let it go. We have to take it to the next step. And the best way to do that, if you've been in meetings with anybody in leadership, is to show a graph or put some sort of presentation up there. And this will help us make decisions with the community team inside of DevRel to say, what are we going to do? Are we going to keep it? Are we going to advance it? If we advance it, then the infrastructure in the back end of the bot are going to change. But there was no better way for us to get started than to build it in a very easy to use platform like Vercel, have some visualizations, and now we can decide what to do next. So now we get to look at what Dennis built, which is even more advanced than what I built, and dare I say better, but also another experiment inside of DevRel Labs. And so Dennis, you are up.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you for saying it's better. My gosh, hopefully everyone's listening to that. So prior to working at HubSpot, I worked at an agency, and when Chris told me about this DevRels thing this DevRels Labs things we're doing, I had a very specific problem that I encountered at the agency, and that was I would build something. One of these three things: I'd either build something, I'd be done with it, and it's kind of in maintenance mode. I'm just kind of watching it on occasion. It would break later on because I missed something happening in the HubSpot ecosystem, or I inherited a whole bunch of projects and I had no idea what they were doing. And so eventually one of them would hit some sort of, breaking change and break itself. And I'd have to figure out where and why and how. And the last thing, and this is probably my biggest one, is there are so many freaking things to pay attention to. I would often just lose track of what I'm doing. I'm not paying attention to any of the change logs, and something breaks. And guess what? You have customers yelling at you at that point. So what I decided was I'm going to build, next slide, HubSpot Developer Changelog Monitoring Tool, aka codename Sprocky Change Dust. What this tool does is actively monitors the HubSpot changelog. It uses AI to look at those changelog entries, decide what type of change it is. Is it a breaking change? Is it an enhancement? Does it affect the CMS? Does it affect the CRM? Does it affect both? And then it allows you to use GitHub hosted repos to check those changelogs against your repo, allowing you allowing basically to have an assistant look at the changelog for you. So how do we do it? The toolkit we used here is going to be a React framework built with Vercel, obviously Next.js because, peanut butter and jelly. Supabase for our database. And then we had to build a GitHub app that allows us to connect to those repos there. And then through some serverless functions on Vercel and OpenAI, I was able to bring back some really good quality data for the user to act on. Why did I choose Vercel? Honestly, it's just super freaking easy to get set up. I didn't have to worry about the front end very much. I had an app up and running in under half an hour easily. With the serverless functions, I was able to really reduce the cost of running that server. It's only on when I need it. I'm sending these batch queues to OpenAI to do, and it brings it back in, does it quickly, save tons of money doing that. And then also just the fact that I can be testing by myself and then just grow to thousands of people using this app. Vercel is just there, scales with me. The whole process was great. So moving on to the next slide, you can see this is basically the front end that I built with Next.js. You'll see we bring in all of our changelog entries. Right here, you can see a description of what that changelog is. If you know right here and now, you can already create an issue to a specific GitHub repo you have attached, which brings us to the next slide. We have to connect it to GitHub. This allows you to connect as many repos as you want. On the first scan, it's going to go through and do a programmatic scan just to see if it thinks it is relevant to HubSpot. Remember, you might have inherited repositories, like 50 repositories. You have no idea what they do. You throw them in here. It's going to go do an initial scan. It's going to find anything, file patterns that it can find to say, oh yeah, this might be HubSpot related. At which point you can go ahead and next slide, and you'll see that you can click the HubSpot button there, which means it's going to send it off to OpenAI in a batch. It's going to monitor, it's using a RAG system to send only the important details that it thinks are related to your repo and HubSpot. It's going to take a little bit of time, and once it's done, it's going to come back and it'll show you all of the possible hits. You get a notification email. I'm working on a Slack notification as well that says, yo, you better check this out. You then have the option to either say, okay, this is legitimate. I will create an issue on this and we'll start working on it. Or I can dismiss it because it doesn't really relate to this. If you dismiss it, we are smart enough to start realizing, okay, this might not be what we want to be monitoring for this particular repo. So we'll update, the usage graph. After that, we are going to continuously monitor each repo. So if you're making changes to any of the repositories, we're watching that. If you do a major change, we're going to go ahead and rescan all of the change logs against this new change you added to make sure that, you didn't do something that you didn't know was an issue. It also allows us to go ahead and, I forgot what I was going to say. Allows us to check whenever a new changelog comes through. it allows us to go ahead and go through every connected repo that you have to see if that changelog is specific to you. This allows you to not have to rely on your eyes to go to the changelog and figure out if this is related to you or not. It allows the changelog to come to you into your inbox, and you get to action it as you need to. With that being said, I think we are at the Q&A time. I tried to rush through that as quickly as I possibly can, so we can have some Q&A if necessary.
You did a good job, Dennis.
Yeah, great job, Dennis.
Golly, gee whiz.
Rapid fire.
Very quick. All right, so we have a few minutes here. So I have a question to start. I know we saw today demos don't always go perfectly when they're live. And while Vercel does make things easy for people, there's always something that we can do better. Nobody's perfect. So do you have any feature requests that you would like me to share with the engineering team? Is there anything that you'd like to see different or that's just missing entirely?
I don't know about missing yet, to be quite honest. I like there's some features you just rolled out recently, allowing extending the work time of a serverless function, I believe. I don't remember the name of it that you just rolled out that I'm very interested in, because when I'm operating with OpenAI, waiting for a result might, outlive the length of a serverless function. You had a name for it, and I apologize, but I forgot what it was. But I'm really excited to start using that, as well as your AI SDK that you just introduced as well. These aren't feature requests. These are me enjoying the features you're bringing out.
I have another one. I've been using I forget the name of the API for deploys, because it's been kind of annoying to go from front end application I built to was the deploy even successful? And so you have an API to get the deploy status. So I don't have to do that. I can wait until it's red before because I actually don't want to look at the interface until there's an issue. And if I have a failed deploy, that's the most frustrating issue that I ever run into. But otherwise, having multiple projects, and I think some of the interfaces, there's always places to improve in terms of experience, but there hasn't been one thing that I've noticed.
Yeah, I have one possible gotcha that might be on my end and not Vercel's. So if it's a feature request, great. If it's me, shame on me. I did a ton of testing locally with all my stuff, and functions don't die locally. At least they did not for me. So everything was looking just smooth as butter. It was amazing. Everything's working out. And then
worked on my machine.
Yeah, worked on my machine. Exactly.
Classic.
Then I pushed it to Vercel, and the functions die eventually. I again, this might be a me thing where I just need to gate or put a governor basically on my functions to only be able to allow them to run for a period of time. But if Vercel could offer that out of the box, that'd be pretty amazing.
It's a longer runtime. Yeah.
No, runtimes matching what they are on production.
Mm-hmm.
Locally.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I've run into some of that as well.
Good to know.
Oh,
do you have anything?
That's great.
I know. I do it all by hand next to me. It helps me remember.
I don't have any specific requests, no, but I did want to just call out if you are new to HubSpot, but you liked what you saw and you want to try us out, you can always join our developer Slack. We talked about that. And you can also go and check out our developer documentation so that you can try some stuff out for yourself.
Indeed.
Awesome. Let's see. I have one more question that I like to ask, and that's, I know you've covered a lot. So if there's a key takeaway, any best practice or just key tip that you want to make sure people remember coming away from this?
I have one, and I didn't follow it, and I'm still not following it. And I'm very mad at myself. Use environments and set them up early. Don't try to retro it later, because it is so painful. So early on, having your environment built, that's one thing. In the interface, it's very easy to have your environment variables tethered to an environment. Get environments set up, use them early, don't wait. because doing it later is so painful. And
Oh, yeah.
I know like we all just want to build functionality and see it working as quickly as possible. And so having a test environment can be kind of annoying. But yeah, that's what I would recommend.
I would +1 to that. I was getting an error and I was asking Cursor why it wasn't working in when I was in my development environment, and it was because I didn't toggle on using my environment my environment secret key inside of my development environment. So it was like it couldn't find the key. So that was kind of silly. But yeah, I see that question about how are you using AI in your workflows. So specifically with me, I like to use our developer MCP. I think it's a really good product, and we're always trying to get feedback on how we can make that developer MCP better for HubSpot developers. But I love it because when I ask Cursor, like, oh, I want to do something, what it will do is it will search our docs in real time. So you're always going to get the most up-to-date information. It's not going to be stale when you ask the MCP a question and it goes to run that search for the docs.
My addition to this would be I use AI skeptically. I question everything that it sends back to me because oftentimes, it's not perfect. It's so easy. It's like candy. You can just like hit accept, go. You are 17 commits deep, and then that third commit is actually going to break everything. So use AI in a skeptical way. Very critical of it. Always make new branches when you're doing a new thing. That way you can just get rid of it if necessary. Take advantage of Vercel and its preview environment, to do that. And yeah, don't rely too much on it.
All good advice. I know we're at time and you all are very busy and probably have places to be right after this. So thank you so much for taking the time. I'm going to let you go so you can get back to your day. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank
Thanks,
you
everybody.
to Vercel and everybody who came.
Awesome. Just a quick reminder, we do have another session next week. We'll be talking about Python at Vercel. And you can always check the events calendar at community.vercel.com/events to see everything that's coming next. Thank you all.